What's up guys, Matty here from DCLblogger.com. Going to be going through Gods Unchained, quick analysis. Going to try aim for 7 to 10 minutes, but really just looking at the prices 7 months ago, prices now, what's happened, why it's happened, looking forward. There was a recent blog post by Gods Unchained, and we're going to go through that and see where the market might be heading, okay? Yeah, so Gods Unchained, as you guys know, is like a card game where you verse each other in like a Hearthstone kind of way, and you try and kill the other person's character, and you verse each other with cards. But the cool thing is that the design is beautiful from these cards, and I remember it being one of the first real well-funded card game blockchain card games on in the NFT space. And what pulled me towards it was, one, it had a ton of funding, and it had and I like well-funded projects. That means that they can last through a bear market, because if you're going, the NFT space is just so, it's hard to monetize right now for projects and founders, and the only way to monetize seems to be by selling NFTs, which isn't a sustainable model because you're actually diluting initial investors, right? So it's kind of like a catch-22. But so for something like Gods Unchained to make real money on the long term, or any other project, they need to have a good 3 to 5 years worth of burn money and funding to kind of build that community, build a marketing the social platforms, and get to a stage where they're monetizing very well with big user base. So that's why I invested in Gods Unchained. And looking back at the analysis video I did back in Jan or maybe Feb. Okay, when did I do this one? I did it in January, and I think this was the month after the release, or maybe the month of the release, not sure. But you can see there was the price movement. So each blue bar represents 1 week, right? And so every week we saw a bit of an increase straight away from launch, and then every week we kind of saw some sort of stability. And in the week of this blog post in Jan, we kind of went up even more. So we had some of these cards like Jason, legendary, go to 0.6 from 0.2. We had Avatar of War go from 0.1 to 0.3 plus ETH. So we had a lot of positive momentum for the first, I'd say, 2 to 3 months, right? And I think what's happened is, if you were to look at current prices, let's look at this. These are all the legendaries. And the cool thing about this website here called tokentrove.com, shout out to, I think David is his name, he makes a pretty sick website. You can check out these cards and you can check their price movement. So if I click on Jason, you saw that it was 0.6 at the time of writing that back in the day, 6 months ago. Current price is 0.24 Ethereum. We dropped back down almost 60%, right? Oh, yeah, something crazy. So we reached a high of 0.6, 0.5 Ethereum, Jan 13th. And then we've come down since then, all the way through February. I think this is the kind of the hype phase when the project has gone launch. It had like 1 or 2 months worth of people going nuts, buying cards, etc., etc. And what you notice is, as volume dries down, and you can see the bars at the bottom, the orange bars, as volume dries up, you see a reduction in the price of the card. That kind of makes sense. That's what happens, right? And that's why liquidity is so important with NFT projects. Liquidity is so important with NFT projects, because if liquidity dries up and there's not much volume, there's not much marketplace activity, people aren't buying and selling in the secondary market, what happens is the price of the whole NFT drops, because people can't cash out. So someone, he may list his item at 2 Ethereum, he can't sell it at 2 Ethereum, what's he going to do? He's going to reprice it at 1.9, then 1.8, then 1.7, because no one's watching this, the market, right? So no one's there to buy this asset that this guy keeps relisting. And when there's people consistently watching the market, and there's a healthy market, and people keep purchasing and selling, then that guy listing it at 2, then 1.9, and 1.8, he can eventually get a sale, and then it creates some sort of like a baseline 1.8 Ethereum for his assets. That's why liquidity is really important. In this case, what's happened is, in a lot of these cards, if I were to click, see some of the less liquid cards, if I were to click some of the less liquid cards like this one, you can see that in the month's time, there's only been 1 sale of this card, right, in July 10th. And again, very, very liquid. At the start, we had 36 purchases at 0.06 Ethereum. And now we had one purchase over the course of 1 month. So 0.02. So again, liquidity is a big issue. Now, I want to make a comment on liquidity in the sense that, particularly for this project, especially now in the last 2 to 3 months, we've seen some pretty insane Ethereum gas costs. And that's put a lot of projects in the back seat because it's not worth purchasing their assets, right? Because if you were to purchase these cards, they may be really cheap, but you're paying astronomical gas prices, so it puts people off. To buy this card at 0.014, you probably have to spend 0.01 for just the gas, so you're actually buying it at 0.025 to 0.03 Ethereum. So a project where card trading and even simple like common cards that you want to buy for 1 cent, you got to pay $3 for, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's what's happened with Gods Unchained. And if you look at the market volume, let's go to OpenSea rankings. If you look at OpenSea rankings, what you notice is a pretty steep decline in volume for Gods Unchained. It's at 33 Ethereum. And I think I've seen it drop under 100 pretty much about a couple of weeks after Ethereum gas prices went nuts, right? And it makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a bottleneck that they understand and they feel, and they've kind of expressed that in this letter from the CEO, which I'll go through soon. But you can see some of the higher projects where the assets are in the tens of Ethereum, they're doing quite well. Sorare, I think, I haven't really looked into it. I think there's been maybe a launch or something happening there that might be why the volume's up. But I know, Crypto Voxels, Decentraland, Somnium Space, Super Rare, Art, a lot of these, it doesn't matter if you're paying $3 in gas because you're buying a $1,000, sometimes $15,000 asset. So, you're okay to spend those prices. That keeps the volume trading. So yeah, with Gods Unchained, unfortunately, it's a type of market where 1 cent cards, you're not going to buy 1 cent, 10 cent, $1 cards for $3 gas. Right? This does not make sense. And I think that's been a big bottleneck for them. And that's why we've seen the market drop down. The good thing is, am I still bullish? I am actually very bullish on this game. And it's not because I have 100 ETH in it, but it is because of what's to come and why the prices are low. The prices are low because there's a bottleneck with gas prices. So what are Immutable doing? They are releasing their own kind of chain. So if we go through their article, you can see that they're going to be releasing, I think it's called Immutable X. So it kind of, where are we? Something about the marketplace. They're building on their own blockchain. I need to find this, hold up. Yeah, one of the biggest scaling potentials for Play to Earn comes from our work with Starkware on building out Immutable X. You can read about Immutable X so that our players and buyers can capitalize on the bonuses of blockchain, namely trustless and programmability, without being hindered by the downsides, i.e. gas fees and limited output. So you should be a lot more transactions, and you shouldn't be paying, you probably be paying cents to make those transactions. Card games specifically have high volume trading, like it's a trading card game, that's what you do, you trade. So a marketplace needs to be very fluid, very active, and like not very expensive to maneuver yourself around, right? So with the release of Immutable and X, and once it's much more cheaper, you should see a huge influx in buying these cards. In fact, I've been wanting to buy a lot of these cards for a very long time, like the commons and the rares, and I could literally buy a lot of those cards, but I can't because it doesn't make sense to do it individually. It's just way too tedious. Being on Ethereum, I think the max you can do per group is like 30 NFTs, so I can only buy cards in sets of 30. So it's very illiquid asset right now. But is it going to be changed? It will be changed, and that's what makes me bullish. And also the fact that if you look at the buy orders, and this is a really important one, but if you look at the buy orders, which is these, you can see that, all right, the cheapest one is 0.0123, which is what the price is there, but it's only one. Like if you buy this, suddenly the price becomes 0.02. And if you buy, 15 or 10 cards, which is what, 0.2 Ethereum, 0.3 Ethereum, that 0.3 Ethereum bumps the price from 0.01 to like 0.04. Suddenly you're up 300%, right? Just on visibility's sake. So what I'm trying to say is the order book for these NFTs is actually quite thin. You spend 0.0, 0.3 Ethereum, it gets a bit of steam, a bit of momentum, and the Genesis cards specifically should go right back up in value just because there's not that many actually being sold under this price. So you can see, again, once this gets bought up, we're back in the 0.2, 0.02 range. These 7 get bought up, that's 0.15 Ethereum. It's really nothing. We're back at 0.05, and let's see some of the higher cards. Let's kind of go to Jason. Where are you? I like comparing Jason because it's like the most expensive legendary card, right? How many cards need to be bought till we're back at 0.6? Looks like 10, 20, 30, 35 cards. That's 35 times 0.3 was like 10 Ethereum. So we're 10 Ethereum away from being back to 0.6 for Jason. So if you take that into account for each card, there's really not that much money that needs to be put into this to bump these prices up. The order book is just so thin. So with that in mind, although it may look like it's down 50%, but you have to understand that when the card trading becomes back online, you should see a lot more volume. When you see a lot more volume, you should be seeing a pretty big price increase. So yeah, pretty excited for my Gods Unchained investment. I have a bunch of legendaries. I have quite a lot of cards in the Genesis set. I'm kind of a collector, so I like to buy the early versions of these projects. So if this becomes big in the crypto space, it doesn't have to become Hearthstone big, but it has to be playable. There has to be a user base for it, right? Then the initial Genesis deck will only keep going up in value, just because they're the first and they're going to be, I think there's a limited amount of them, right? So that's that. We can also see that Genesis rare chests, this is another thing where, it's gone down from highest. Sometimes it's not really fair to compare things from the highest. So 0.3 Ethereum all the way down to 0.1 pretty much. But if you look down, once again, once it gets back up to 0.25, that's like, what, 70 times 0.1? 7 to 10 Ethereum. After 10 to 15, after like 10 to 15 Ethereum, you're back at what, 0.2 to 0.3 Ethereum for one Genesis rare chest. The rare chests are really exciting. One of my best investments, I think, long term. I have like 140 of them just because they're unopened packs. So unopened packs in card games, you know that they're valuable, right? Unopened Pokemon cards, etc., etc. They've always gone up in value just because it's a very collector type item. So all of these combined, it still makes me pretty bullish on this, but in the short term, they're kind of stuck. They're kind of like an opportunity right now. As soon as they have a better solution, the marketplace is a lot more cheaper to maneuver yourself around. You can buy more in bulk and a lot more better. I'm going to be looking to buy a pretty decent stack of cards. I also want to highlight this bit here. So on going mainstream, so where are we with Gods Unchained? Are we ready to take advantage of these benefits and to take the game to 1 million plus players? I'll be honest, not just yet. We're extremely keen to do this, and we have the money to simply purchase a large number of users. But we know that for an influx of players, they need to be long-term sustainable. We need the following: improvements to the UX, scalability and liquid asset trading, improvements to the core loop of the game. The last one's probably the most important. That needs to happen before you bring any new players. The first ones, I'm not too familiar with the first two because I'm not much of a player, but I know in terms of the economic part of things, the third one's probably the most important. But yeah, once they do that, then I'm pretty sure they're going to go live with the tournament. With these changes and mobile in the works, we think that Gods Unchained will be ready to start scaling to the big leagues and hit the goal of 1 million players. That'll be really, really interesting to see happen. So it's good to see these guys have the funding to buy players, in the sense, when they say buy players, they're actually talking about marketing, right? Because you have to figure out your cost per acquisition going forward. So 1 million players is a pretty damn good goal. They have the money to do that. It's a great game. It's got a lot of investment in it. A lot of people watching it. Also with OpenSea, it's important to note this, right? There's 14,000 wallet holders of Gods Unchained cards. And compare that to all of these other projects. You have 578 Somnium Space, 1,300 super rare collectors, or at least unique wallets, 3,600 for Decentraland, 87,000 for CryptoKitties. So Gods Unchained is what, 1/5 of that? My math's not working, but yeah, 1/5, 1/6 of that, maybe 1/4. But yeah, we are Gods Unchained is really not that far away. Also, the market cap is 13,500 Ethereum, which is, you know, pretty good. It's pretty good. It's almost like half the size of Decentraland. You know, with Decentraland, it's really high value assets, so the market cap is usually a lot higher than most others. So it's pretty impressive that other projects with smaller value assets, like a couple of dollars and tens of cents, can kind of keep up with that. But yeah, pretty exciting. Long term, short term, I kind of find it to be a lot of opportunity for the prices that they are now, and also the fact that you know, as soon as it goes live, I kind of like to take advantage of there being a little bit of FUD, I guess, in the air, because things aren't working out. If you know that things are going to get better for a fact, and it looks like there will be, because there is funding and they have the right plans in mind to fix the bottlenecks. So is there opportunity right now? I would say yes, but the gas fees puts me off, or else I would be buying quite a lot of these cards because they're really cheap. Anyway, that's about it. I don't want to go through this too long, but those are my thoughts. Am I still bullish long term? Yes, I am. It's a waiting game for me. I have a lot of Genesis cards and unopened chests. But yeah, let's see what happens with Gods Unchained.